This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. I am your host, Tim Dolbear, coming to you live from Eclectica Studios in beautiful Austin, Texas. Before we get started, give a big thanks to our sponsors, which include FrontEndAudio.com, your pro audio dealer, and the Blackbird Academy, hands-on training for studio and live sound. So, welcome back. This is actually our second show as we get things rolling here. And we have a lot of stuff coming up in the next month. So let me give you a real quick rundown of who's joining me on the show. So coming up in the next few weeks, on the 18th, next week, we have producer and mix engineer Ross Hogarth. If you don't know who he is, please Google him and check him out. He is, his discography goes on and on, from Van Halen to just on and on. Check it out. It's going to be a fun show. On the 25th, we have Professor of Audio Engineering at the Blackbird Academy, Mark Rubel. He's going to be in here talking about his many years in the studio, and he has some fantastic stories. So, on the 2nd of May, we have Michael Romanowski. He's going to come back in, kind of a part 2 from last week, where we're going to talk about using mix bus compression in mastering. He's going to take that side of it. I'll be talking about mix bus compression from the mixing engineer side of it and how it's two completely different approaches. Then the week after that, on the 9th, we have from Solid State Logic, SSL, we have Mark DeGeorge joining me to talk all about the latest happenings at Solid State Logic and all of the dream gear that we all wish we could have in our rooms, other than the air conditioning bill that sometimes comes along with it. But you know what I'm saying. So join me for those shows. Those are coming up. And I want to thank you all for the emails and the messages of support. It's very, very cool. This week's question for Tim is coming in from Micah Wagner of Austin, Texas, who's a friend. He's a singer-songwriter and producer, and his question for me this week was, if I take a recorded track, then run it through a nice outboard preamp after it's already been recorded, does it make a difference, in my opinion? And what are the benefits of tracking with a good preamp during recording as opposed to doing it in post? So my response to him is, if you bring a +4 Pro level recorded signal back down far enough to use it into a good mic pre, you're going to degrade the sound tremendously. If you're using a DI box, you're going through its transformers, you're just going to lose more tone than any mojo that you're going to get. Also, if you bring it down just enough to get it into line input, if you put it through the line input on a mic pre, you're missing the input transformer, so you're not getting its mojo. And that's what this is all about, is trying to get those harmonics, distortions, and tones that you'll get out of the input transformer of the mic preamp. But the number one reason not to reamp through a mic pre, in my opinion, is that you've missed out on getting the incredible amount of resolution that you will get from using a mic preamp to begin with. If you just track with a normal preamp, it's only able to pull X amount of sound out of the microphone that it's able to do. A really good preamp, like a Great River or a Manley or something, is going to pull an extra resolution out of that microphone that if you didn't get it to begin with, you won't get it later on. So if you want to get mojo back into your tracks that have already been done, really just putting them back through a good comp or EQ that has great transformers is going to do that type of a thing for you. So there's your question. There you go. Thank you for emailing me, Micah. And if you have any questions for me, email me too. You can find me at timdolbear.com and, of course, at intertalkradio/sound experience. So let's get on with today's show. Today, I have my favorite rock vocalist of all time joining me. And so you might know him through his work with the band TNT. You might also know him. He just did a tour with Skid Row. He has 30 albums or so to his name at this point that have made a huge collection of gold and platinum albums for him. And I spoke with him about a year ago for a feature article that I was doing on listening. That is a feature article in Professional Sound Magazine. Again, you can find it at timdolbear.com. And while we were talking for that small 15-minute talk, it ended up being 2 hours of us talking about mics and preamps and techniques. And I knew I needed to bring him on the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Tony Harnell. Tony Harnell, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Tim?
I am doing good. Thank you very much for coming on here and sharing your experiences.
I do apologize. I'm actually on the street talking to you because I totally spaced out and forgot about the interview tonight again. But I'm here, and I'm with you. And I love that
what part of the city?
That last... I'm in Brooklyn right now.
Awesome.
So if you hear any sirens or anything, they're not coming for me. At least I hope not. But,
it'll just make me miss New York City all the more.
I love that last. I just heard what you were. That last question you were answering there. That was really good information.
Cool.
And I'll probably want to go over that with you privately afterwards.
Anytime. Yeah, anytime. Well, the first question I had for you is I wanted to ask you, what is your process now, and how does it differ compared to the process that you used to do, let's say, in the mid-'80s?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, having your own studio is in your own, space makes it changes everything, because I usually have some project that I'm working on, and a lot of my projects, at least 50% of them or more, are long-distance projects. So that might mean that maybe I was in the same room with somebody when I wrote the song, and then eventually I get sent tracks. And, so you wake up in the morning and you sort of feel inspired maybe, and you just turn everything on, and, you just kind of start messing around with ideas. It's just such a completely different process rather than, this whole kind of, I don't know, I've got studio time at 3, and I've got to be prepared because it's costing me X amount per hour, and there's an engineer sitting there, and all these other factors, and maybe there's even, a friend or two in the studio, or friends of the engineers are in the studio, or whatever the situation may be. It definitely interferes with the creative process more than I was realizing before. On the other hand, having that kind of situation can push you to greater heights, but I think it also can inhibit you from trying stuff that you might not, you might be more willing to try if you were alone, with nobody judging you. You might try some crazy thing because no one's there. So you just hit record. Normally what I do is if I get a track from somebody, I'll just set the track up. Maybe I'll put up, I don't know, 6, 8 vocal tracks, and I'll just start trying things, different melodies over the chords, different, phonetically, because I kind of write phonetically as I'm writing melodies, and then I'll write the lyrics afterwards. So it allows me to try different things and different ideas, and, this little melody works great over this little chord progression, but I don't like the next section. So I'll go through all the tracks that I did, and I'll kind of sometimes piece together what I think is the perfect melody, or, find it along the way. But it definitely creates a lot of freedom. And what I find is often, by the time I'm finished with this little process that I've developed over the past, 8 to 10 years, it's a final vocal as opposed to a demo vocal. Because as I'm writing the melody, I'm also jotting down lyrics, and often I'll find that I'm recording something to impress the person I'm writing with, my co-writer. So I try to make it as good as possible. And oftentimes they'll come back and say, dude, don't change anything. Just let's use that. Sorry for the motorcycle in the background. They'll say, let's use that vocal. They'll say, let's use that vocal as the final vocal, and we'll just dump it onto the, to the final tracks when they're done. But that's just a huge difference in the way, that it was done before. I don't know if it's better. I don't know. It's just different. In some ways, it is a lot better because, about all the things I just said.
Right.
On the other hand, if I had done that process, and let's say I wanted a better vocal sound than what I was able to get in my studio, then maybe I would, do it again. But I hate re-recording vocals because that's the other thing, that initial process of what you're getting when you do it the way I just explained is you're not only getting the initial idea down, as a writing process, but you're also getting this kind of organic not thinking about it too much kind of vocal track where you're just kind of experimenting and having fun, and you're not thinking or overthinking. You're just kind of trying to find your way, and it's very fresh and it's very organic and new, and all the emotions that come through are really fresh and genuine. And you might not get those if you did it the other way. You might, but you might not. You don't know. So it just depends.
Is it also because there's no clock?
But I've always, yeah, the record companies, in the old days, they always were so insistent on hearing all the demos for the entire album. And I always hated it because it meant that I'd have to record the vocals twice. And I swear, many times as I listen back to the original demos, yeah, does the final album version sound better? Of course. But the demo performance is often more heartfelt and emotional and fresh and in the moment because you're not really thinking about it too much. So that's just my point of view. Some people like to over rehearse and really rehearse things and really have things down. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But I just found that this other way is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're about to go into a commercial. When we get back from that, then I want to stay on the subject and go into more of the, okay, if there's people in the room, does it turn into more of a performance? And because it's a performance, are you able to get more of a passion out of it? So here's a commercial break. We'll be back in a couple minutes. This is Sound Experience powered by Intertalk Radio, your music biz leader? Yes, leader. All right, so we're back in a couple minutes.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
The richness of your life is reflected in the shimmering elegance found at Diolune Design. One-of-a-kind jewelry and pieces from Cynthia Dillon in silver and gold help to express your unique personality. The flowing designs of her creations will empower the way you move throughout your day. Join us online at DIOLUNdesigns.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. MOZEguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect. Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, this is Tim from Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, talking with Tony Harnell about his process for recording in the studio. All right. So,
while Tony's on the streets of New York with very loud music coming from cars.
That's great, though. It's music. It's life. You have so much energy in that town. Soak it up. Soak it up. You could find yourself in the middle of Texas someday.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be so bad.
So, it's not actually, but it's different. So I was reminded of a story. I mentored under Keith Olson at Goodnight LA Studios out at the Sound City compound. And one of the stories he told me that has really stuck with me was brought up from what you just said. I was reminded of it. And that's when he was recording the Whitesnake album with the big song Still of the Night. He got to that middle section, David Coverdale, the singer, got to the middle section and was having trouble with the vocals there. Just no energy, no oomph, no pizzazz. And Billy Gibbons walked in with two beautiful girls into the studio, stood in front of the glass and said, "Hey, man, let's go get a drink." And he said, "Okay, one more take." Did it, nailed it on the one take, walked out of the studio with the girls and Billy. So
there you go.
In the days when you're tracking in the studio, you had people there. Right. There was that energy that you get from having people there. Sometimes it's a nervous energy, and it makes you fall back on what you know and what you practice and everything. Do you miss that when you're stuck into your own private studio, being able to draw from that?
The best answer that I can give you is it depends on who's in the studio. It depends on your relationship with those people. It depends on whether you know them or not. And it just kind of depends on them. If you've got people that you feel really comfortable with, there's a great vibe, you feel like they're really in your corner, and you just feel very comfortable and very supported, then that's one vibe. If you feel like you're being judged or critiqued or, I don't know, if you in any way, and it might not even be their fault, if you just feel uncomfortable for whatever reason, then you're not going to, you're not going to give a good performance. And I had something kind of like that happen to me recently. It wasn't a studio recording, but it was just a performance situation where there were just too many people in the vicinity of where we were recording this thing, and I just couldn't find my center, I guess is the best way to put it. So I think it just depends. It depends on who's there, who they are, and the energy that's being created in the control room. All those things matter. Sometimes I've kicked people out many times, and I've invited people in. It just depends,
Right.
Yeah.
Understand. That's cool. The main question I got from people had a theme. They wanted to know about you tracking with compression. Whether one, first of all, you do or you don't, and two, how much. And does it get to the point where it actually messes with your monitoring and your sense of being able to grasp pitch and everything? And a good example that I thought of was if you think of the verses for the song Northern Lights that you have, where you are almost at a whisper through the verse. The original one off the album, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing in those. I don't know what they were doing in those days because I was so young, and I was, we were working with such a good producer in such high-end studios back then that I really couldn't tell you what they were, what they were doing. Going through a giant SSL, who knows what they were doing. All I remember about Northern Lights in that session was that I was singing on a very old C12 and a huge SSL. And other than that, I have no clue what they were doing. What I've learned on my own is, with my own little studio, is experimenting a lot and sending tracks to other people who are going to mix it. In the very beginning, when I started, the constant thing was pull back on the compression. Well, see, me recording with compression makes me feel more comfortable because it makes it sound more like it does when you're seeing live. But what I learned was, just to start controlling everything a little more and figuring out, how far away from the mic do I need to be? How hard can I crank the preamp? Going to the compressor, to figure it all out and try to get the right balance of not too much but just enough, because I go from a whisper to a scream in a matter of sometimes one verse. So it's, singers like me or, most rock singers, I guess, with big, loud, I have a very loud voice when I sing. So loud voice rock singers that go from soft to high, low to high, and they get louder as they go up. Oh, great. Let's have a car alarm in the mix now back here in the background. There's suddenly a car from the 80s.
Actually, I can barely hear
into
it.
this whole picture.
Anyway.
So I think it taught me to try to pull back as much as I could and let them add the compression, after the fact during the mix. Add more compression then. But it's very important to me.
Are you working the mic then?
I am working the mic, and I do pull away, and I do definitely do that. And it's really funny. I did an EP a couple of years ago, and one day I just got inspired. I don't play guitar very well, and I just sat down with my guitar, and I started to strum this thing. And I don't know, within about a half hour, I had the song written, and I just kind of sat down on instead of standing up where I normally do when I sing, I sat down with the mic still where it is where I normally sing, but I kind of angled it down at me. So it's probably a good, 5-6 feet away from where I'm sitting down in the chair. And I'm recording this thing with the guitar on my lap. And I swear it's one of the best vocal sounds. The guitar is in there too because I recorded both of them live, and I wanted that on purpose. But there's something about the vocal sound on that recording that's very, very cool. It allowed me to crank up the preamp and hit the compressor a little bit harder without it sounding tiny. And it actually sounds like, it's a little weird in places. It's not perfect. There are moments where it's, too loud or too distorted, but there are moments also where it's just like this beautiful sound. And I thought, man, there's got to be something to this. So I think that
there is.
Whenever I get into my next project, I'm gonna pull away a little bit and try to record like the old guys did back in the 50s and 60s, where they got back from the mic a little and cranked the preamp a little bit more. But the problem therein lies the sound of your room. So
yes,
that probably for me being mostly in apartments all the time recording, it becomes a matter of just deaden the crap out of the room.
Right.
Because
having the
I can't
microphone
really
farther
use it.
away from your voice, having it farther away allows the sound to actually develop and start and naturally grow, as well as if you're miking a saxophone, you don't just put it at the hole, you put it about a foot away from all of the valves and everything, because there's sound coming out everywhere. And your voice, of course, obviously, there's sound coming out of your chest, out of your neck, out of your sinuses, everywhere. And so it's able to capture a more natural snapshot of your sound.
Well, this is what I always tell people when I work with other producers. I always tell them it's a very simple direction. I just say, listen to me sing. Come into the room and hear and listen to me. And I say, you hear that? And they go, yeah, okay. I say, good. That's what I want it to sound like when you record me, except better. So whatever you're doing and whatever you do, don't smash it, don't crush it, don't take any of the overtones away. I just want to sound like me, but a better version of me, and that seems to be good direction for most of these guys, But again, when you're recording
so much
rock,
time gets spent. Sorry, we have a delay going. So much time gets spent on people thinking about mic placement and mic choices and this and that they forget that all they need to do is listen to the sound source for a moment, and that tells you everything. Walk around the room, walk around the sound source, and listen. Don't theorize what's going to be the best thing.
Yeah. because not every mic works, obviously we all know this, not every mic works the same on every singer, and not every, vocal chain that you're going to use. You originally asked me, your question, though, was do I use compression when I record? And, a singer like me has to. I have to use compression when I record. And, I know some rock singers use two compressors, chained to each other with, one fast one and one slow one. So guys like Chris Cornell and a few others that I know of that have that technique, that use that technique. So, I think it's necessary. I love when I listen to those old Zeppelin records, though, and I hear Robert Plant hit it real hard, and I hear just a little bit of that, that distortion come through. Mm-hmm. And I hear it on Aretha. I hear it on Aretha Franklin tracks, and I hear it on a lot of these old recordings, and it sounds so great. When it happens here and there at the right moment, it just sounds so great because you don't really lose anything. You just kind of get that extra little, oh man, they're hitting it really hard in that moment. The problem nowadays is if that turns into digital distortion, it sounds like crap, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can accent a vocal and make it sound loud and powerful by having a little bit of the preamp distortion on there. All right, we got a couple seconds and we're about to go into a break. So this is Tim from Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, your leader in music biz talk, and we will be back in a few moments.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What?, Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the leader in music biz talk. Before we get back started, Big shout out again to our sponsors, including FrontEndAudio.com, your ultimate pro audio dealer, and mine, and the Blackbird Academy, hands-on training for studio and live sound. All right, well, we are back with the second half of our show. Tony Harnell has left the building, and so we thank him very much for coming on the air with us and talking with us about his process for recording. And I bring on now my producer, Tino. Say hi, Tino.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I've been enjoying this show, Timmy.
And you're on a couple other shows. Give me give us all a few minutes or two on the different shows that you have going on.
Well, hey, man, we've got a lot of great shows here on Intertalk Radio Network. I personally host two shows, the Changing Stage Radio Show, which is kind of how we met, because I brought you on as a guest and recognized that, man, this guy needs his own show. And as we grew it to a network, from that show, we kind of grew into a full network. I started off doing another show for emerging artists called Radio Band Diego. Your Band's Revealed is what the tagline is, and it was basically taking these artists that were just on the cusp of making it, and we're starting to see some of them really cut now, and giving them a platform to get their music out to the whole world, because we are worldwide with our network. And then from there, we've grown to Girls Talk Rock, which is all about women and empowered in the business. We're starting to see a lot of lady players that are coming up, a lot more, I think, than we did in the past. We had Carol Kay, and that was pretty much, the general jest, or, some of the bands like the Go-Go's. But now we're starting to see some major players like Tal Wolkenfield. You've got... I'm getting drawn a blank, but there's a lot of great ladies.
There's a lot.
Jennifer Batten, and they're having them all featured on the show. In fact, they just recently had Lori B. Whitmore, who is the She Rocks Awards at the NAMM organization. So we've got Music Gear Talk. It's kind of like the player side of your show, where you're talking about all the great studio gear and all this other fun stuff. Mm-hmm. They talk to companies like Telefunken about their microphones. They'll talk to gear. They just had More Basses talking about basses, and then of course from there we've got obviously Jackie show that was just before this. I don't know if anybody who was tuning in right now had a chance to listen, but it was an amazing show with Robin Flans, who is also a Mix magazine writer like yourself. So we mentioned, and she knew who you were and all that fun stuff. And
cool.
she's been like the leading voice when it comes down to writing articles about drummers. She's been doing it since the 80s, and everybody from Ringo Starr to any drummer of notoriety, she's the one that she's interviewed these folks. And a few stars like Billy Bob Thornton, who's a drummer. Who would have thunk, right?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is. He's a drummer. And he's like, please take my number. I guess he's like really wanted, he wanted to promote his band. So, and then Scott.
Yeah, I knew he was in a band. So
yeah, that's crazy. And then Scott Robertson, who has made the best brand win, which is a show all about marketing in this business, this crazy business, because that's what we're all trying to figure out is how's all the as the dust starts to settle now with all the figuring out of how people are going to make money. Where's this all going to land? Marketing is going to be a huge part of that, and may the best brand win. I thought I was a good marketing person, but listening to Scott Robertson, he's an 11-year veteran with the NAMM organization. He really got their notoriety to a level beyond anything they were. They had one of the biggest years recently this past year, and he was one of the architects to kind of solidify their brand in today's modern music industry. So, there's some really good shows that we have on, and we got a couple of other ones. I can't mention any names yet, but they're huge names of notoriety in the business. We like to, like yourself, bring on people, not necessarily that are journalists, though you have some journalist background, but really are people who are doing it in the business, talking about the business. So
right.
Those are all the fun things we're doing.
Well, speaking of brand,
Yeah,
speaking of brand, the whole reason that I started writing for Mix Magazine and Professional Sound and some others was to get my name out there to build my brand.
Yeah.
Everything that I've done has been for building my brand, so that is so important.
Yeah. So that's why, and you've done an amazing job. I mean, you're the product specialist for Magix. Obviously, you're a writer for Mix Magazine. You're doing incredible work as an engineer, and you've also got all the great videos that you have online. So I think people should know about that as well. If you haven't found Tim that way, you need to go check out some of those the videos that you have. And your blog is just amazing. In fact, we feature your blog on on our web portal right there, where people can get techniques on how to get the best sound out of their studio, whether it be a home or whether it be top-end pro studio. You got that knowledge, and that's kind of what we're doing. And I think it's kind of a good segue, man. I'm gonna grill you on your own show if you don't mind. Can I ask you a few questions?
Please do it.
All right.
I would love it.
Because I also engineer. I'm not at your level. I'm more of kind of the layman. I had to adopt to it quite a bit for necessity's sakes as a producer, which is more my calling than a bass player. I realized that I can't always get a top engineer like yourself and be able to afford that for demos and stuff. So I had to learn. So here's some of the questions I have for you. One of the biggest challenges anybody faces is how do you get a nice clean track, and what's involved with that. And there's two different ways to track. Really, essentially, you could do it with a DAW, which is probably the most well used form right now, or you can do it with tape. And you've been a man who's experienced with both. What do you do when you track to either DAW or tape?
Now I track strictly to digital. I have been toying with the idea of getting a tape machine in here for projects that would warrant that, but my preference is to track 96K straight into Sequoia. I'm using Apogee converters on the way in and MyTech converters on the way out. And I actually had been thinking over the last couple days just about this question, and no, I didn't even send you this question to ask me, so it's really cool. The thing that I've learned, the most important thing that I've learned to record great sounding, wonderful, clean, beautiful, usable tracks is you have to have good equipment that is recording a great sound source. That is, the sound source has to be a great player or a great voice. So let's say that the voice, you got, but the thing is, it's always like, okay, I got this so-and-so tube preamp that I bought for $99, and it's a tube preamp. Oh, it should sound fantastic.
Yeah, no.
The difference between a $99 preamp and a $2,000 Manley preamp, or a $3,200 Great River preamp is just night and day. It's a bicycle versus a Ferrari. It is absolutely a different ballgame. And the better gear that I've gotten through I've been working full time as an engineer since 1999. And of course I started with cheaper gear, and I had decent mics, I had okay preamps and okay compressors and stuff. And I went through the evolution of slowly building up better gear, and it really, really made a difference at every step of the way, right down to the wire and the connectors. And we're not talking about, going off the deep end with, I have a mic cable that's $3,800 and the connectors are made out of, platinum and this and that. I'm keeping it all in like the realistic realm. I do have mic cables that are a couple $100 each, and they do make a huge difference. I'm talking about when you get into your studio, every single link of the chain matters immensely. And making sure that each thing is the best it can be, the shortest length runs. I'm not using a patch bay because personally for me, unless it's at +4 line level at that point, even then patch bays, I feel, kill the sound some. But anything else, line level at -10 and especially mic level, you can't have any amounts of patching going on. It has to be very, very clean and to the point and straight in if you can. And the more you focus on these things and build up the better quality of equipment and connectors and cabling and short runs cut to the actual lengths, everything just sounds better and better, to where now when I track, I throw an Audix D1 in front of a Marshall cabinet or an SE, the Voodoo 1 ribbon, just depending on what I'm using. Couple room mics up that are SE5s from SE microphones. I just throw the levels up, track it, and it's done. I'm not using EQ. I'm not using, when it comes time to mix, there's barely any EQ, if anything, maybe rolling off bottom, bumping a little touch of highs. But my goal has always been you track it so you throw the faders up and you're 99% of the way done at that point.
Yeah, that makes all the difference in the world, for sure.
It really does. And when people, I see people on Facebook that'll friend me, I'll go to their page, and they're just starting out with a studio, and their racks are filled with the gear that I used to have in my rack, say 15 years ago or so. And I remember the sound I would get from that stuff, and it was good, but it's a different ball game now. It's a completely different ball game as I replace those pieces with pieces that are stellar. They really make all the difference in the world and make your job as an audio engineer a lot more fun, because you're not starting at a negative position sound-wise. You're starting at exactly how it should sound. It sounds brilliant and wonderful and clean and clear, and you barely have to do anything to improve upon it from there. So
and I think those are techniques, especially in this day and age with everyone. You were talking about it with Tony. The common mistake young audio engineers, I think, make is let's overproduce, let's overcompress, let's overdo this, let's overdo that, because more is better, right? No, you guys are really
nope,
really crucial about how to keep it to the bare essence of the artistry. So even back down to when you're talking when he was mentioning the doing the vocals. Looks like we got some music coming in.
Yeah, so I guess we'll be back here in a couple minutes with Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio, your leader in music biz talk. We look forward to having you back with us in a couple minutes after this break with our sponsors.
Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Attention business owners. Does it feel like your business owns you? See if you qualify for a free 90-minute business coaching session to help you build a business, not a job. During this free 90-minute strategic consultation, one of our senior coaches will help you map out the best way to grow your company and get your life back. To learn more, go to MauiMasterminds.com/scale now. That's MauiMasterminds.com/scale now.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, thanks for listening. We're back. And I wanted to follow up with one more thing that I was thinking of in the break. If I was back 15 years ago in my studio and I had all of the gear that I had at that point, the one thing that I should have done is sold everything and just got one good preamp, a decent mic, best I can get, but really just one great mic preamp makes all the difference in the world in your recording. It really does. So
it's like one great rock show changes the world.
Exactly. It'll change your life. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. So obviously, that mic and that preamp really is going to be crucial for vocals. How do you discern between what type of mic for that? I mean, you could use some like a 414. To me, an AKG 414 is kind of a catch-all. It's pretty good. It's great for R&B, some rock, that kind of stuff. But how do you personally discern which microphone to use with a vocalist? And when you have a couple of different mic preamps like yourself, how do you figure that out? What's your process to discern this is going to be the best combination for this vocalist?
Well, if you're working full time, it's easy to start learning and knowing exactly what your preamps each channel sounds like. And if you don't get to do this full time, which most people don't, I'm exceedingly blessed that I do, is you have to spend lots of time doing trial and error. You got to spend a lot of time with just get a friend in there or a buddy or someone singing into a microphone and try out all the different preamps, all the different mics, and start listening to the differences between them so you can learn them. That's really important. For me, I always think of, one, the performance has to be fantastic. The song needs to be great. That's a huge ingredient, because if you capture a horrible performance but you capture it perfectly, it just makes it sound worse yet. Right? If you captured it really badly, it just, I meant to do it like that as irony or something.
It's kind of like HD TV. You ever watch one of those high res 120 resolution, and these people look beautiful in like standard TV definition, and you look at them and go, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be in HD at all.
Not so much. Exactly. So you got to always take that into balance. For me, let's use it as a case study. The main preamps that I have is I have a Manley 40 dB mic pre. I have the Manley Force, and then I have the 2-channel Great River mic pre, which is like an old Neve style pre, only it's just stunning. Anyway, so it's a spectrum. You have the Manley 40 dB, which is very huge and round sounding and depth and hi-fi-ish almost. The opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Great River, which is, it just sounds like rock and roll. Yeah. It has all of the rich overtones to it. It has a great mid-punch to it. It's just fast, as opposed to a Manley Tube, which tends to be a little bit slower on transients. So it's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And then you have the Force, which to me kind of sits right in between those two units. It's very much a console-type sound to me, a great console sound, and you get 4 channels of it. It's just killer. So depending on what the person's voice is, I choose the microphone off of that, as well as being a mixing engineer, which is the main thing I do now. I started as a producer and audio engineer, but have moved into the world of mixing as my main thing that I do now, my main gig. And so I'm already thinking when I'm tracking something where it's going to sit in the mix. So even though on one song I might use the Manley 40 dB and this tube mic, and for a ballady type song, the next song might be a hard rock song. That same person's voice in that new song might sound better going through like a Shure KSM 27, like a rock male vocal mic, into the Great River, and it just has that grit and overtones and drive to it. Okay. So it really depends, but knowing them is key. Obviously, if you do an entire album with everything on the same preamp, that's a good preamp, it'll sound good. But you're missing out on flavors.
Yeah.
We did a promotional video song shoot for the Manley Force that we've been putting together with them, where we tracked an entire band just using the Manley Force. And it sounds fantastic on everything, except for the kick and snare. I would have rather have had them on the Great River. They just had more punch and everything on the Great River than they did on the Manley Force. But its song turned out fantastic because I'm using a manly force. It sounds fantastic. How bad's it going to sound, right?
Yeah.
So you get to the point where you can have preferences, but once you're up at the category of this style of preamp, you got it good. It's going to be good regardless.
Yeah. And with that said, people send you tracks that they've already recorded. So that's the process that you have when you've produced. You record as if you're already mixing, and I think that's the best way to go about it. Let's say someone sends you a track, especially like a vocal track, and I've actually sent you projects that I've worked on because you're definitely the mix master. When you take a listen to the vocal tracks, do you re-preamp those at all, or do you try to do something else?
Never.
Okay. I've heard people do that,
but I will other instruments. Vocals, I try not to have them leave the box to go out and reamp or anything. There's enough tools in there that I can use, but really I try keeping them as they were.
Okay.
A lot of times people will send me something, and if I do try to reamp the vocal or do anything drastic to it, they won't like it because they're so used to hearing the vocal as it was.
Gotcha.
Now a snare drum, it might be something like a ping type snare drum on a song that should have more of a cardboard box thud type of a sound to the snare.
Yeah.
And then I'll reamp it through like a 10-inch Jensen speaker or a Marshall cabinet, and then mix those sounds together to get that kind of mid punch to the gut kind of sound into it and get some of that ringing out.
So you'll run that audio signal out into some type of, like you said, some kind of box, like a speaker box.
Exactly.
Then you'll mic that up.
Yeah, I have lots of speakers to choose from here at the studio. And so one project I just did, the song came in, and that's exactly what it had. It was a ping for a snare. It was just not the snare sound for the song. And I took a ribbon mic, put it in front of a 212 with Celestion G1280s from G1230s from the early 80s, and mixed that together with the original snare sound with that ping completely EQ'd out. Well, of course, notching out that ping, you have almost no snare drum left. You have the snare sound, and that's about it. And so mixing the speaker back in, that punch that I reamped, I was able to get exactly the snare sound that I wanted without replacing it. Because when you replace something, I just never... Kick, I can kind of get away with, but it always is different. The timing always moves. The feel kind of changes when it's reamped.
Yeah.
And I'd rather, or sorry, not reamped, but sampled, sample replaced. It never really lines up and feels right 100% to me. But doing a reamp, it's captured perfectly, and I phase align it by looking at the waveforms on the screen.
Interesting. Yeah, you definitely you're the kind of mix master that takes a lot of the old world principles and kind of still blends it in with this new technology, because obviously you're the product specialist for Magic's software and Samplitude and Sequoia. They're very much about the digital world and the technology that really is cutting edge with what they use. So that's really important. Is there any plugins that you use for emulating preamps or anything that you could recommend?
I use everything from UAD. I've been on their beta team since the early 2000s. And so everything from UAD, I use almost everything there. But to get Mojo back in and stuff, I really have to come out of the box and into something if I want to really get a real transformer preamp. The Fatso from UAD, I'd say that would be the main one that I would use for a lot of that type of junk.
Awesome.
But we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
So
before we
close
out
these questions.
Before we close out, I want to give a shout out to Jason Schiff, the lead singer and bass player from Chicago. Go to winmybass.com, WINBASS.com, so you can win his bass.
Great, fantastic, and thank you for joining us on Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio. I'm Tim Dolbear, signing off from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. Now, go make some music.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Progressive Medical. Hey, this is Heidi Rue, and you know, Progressive Medical Center has literally changed my life and my health, but I'm not the only one. Adele suffered from bone deterioration, bone overgrowth, profound muscle discomfort, physical exhaustion, and mental fog. In fact, the bone deterioration becomes so serious that she had to have back surgery. Well, after the surgery, she still didn't feel well, and so that's when she heard about Progressive Medical Center. Progressive Medical Center discovered that her adrenals weren't working properly, her hormones were out of whack, and the drugs she had been taking were doing more harm than good. Adele came into Progressive Medical Center in a walker, physically and mentally exhausted. But now she's a world traveler. She hikes and walks several miles a day, and it's all thanks to Progressive Medical Center. 770-676-6000. 770-676-6000.
Progressive Medical. This is your life. Live it well.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.